Hey guys, Mr. Amari here with another tutorial for ClickTeam Fusion. So we've been working on our Gauntlet top-down action. Game in the style of something like Gauntlet. And so far, what we should have is our play area kind of like mapped out in a little maze. We should have our player character that we can move around, and we should have it so that when we're hitting a button, we are shooting a player projectile. So let's see how this runs so far. And I'm moving around in my 8-direction movement. I'm able to shoot a projectile. So everything's going great. The only problem is I don't have any sort of enemies for me to be able to fight. So in Gauntlet, if you remember, we had enemies that would come out of what was called a spawn point. And this was common in much older games, especially arcade games. You would have your enemies would spawn out of these like constant just stream of enemies so that you'd have an endless waves of them to fight. So we're going to create that today. We're going to create a small sprite that's going to act as an active object that's going to be the place where they spawn from. And we're also going to be able to talk about how we get those enemies to follow us around the map. All right, so the first thing we have to do is we have to make a sprite to make the active object that's going to act as our spawn point. So of course, we've done this before a bunch of times. We right click, we go insert object, and we're going to do an active object. We're going to hit OK, and we're going to go ahead and place it. Let me just put it right over here on screen. And of course, we don't want it to look the same as our character. In fact, I don't want it to like even be named the same as my character. I have all these things that say like active, active, active. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go over to my workspace toolbar here. My player character, I'm going to right click on and rename to player. And my active 2 here, I'm going to rename this to enemy SP for enemy spawn. And of course, I don't want it to look the same as my character, so I'm going to double click into it. And we're going to do what we've been doing. We're making very basic placeholder graphics. So I'm going to pick a color. I'm going to make it, let's say, orange. And we're going to fill it in as a box. And we're going to hit OK. So that's going to be our spawn point. And now we need to have an enemy sprite. So we're going to go ahead and do insert object. Also an active. We're going to hit OK. Now with this, we're going to have to put this off screen. You'll see why in a moment. I'm going to put it right there. Now, of course, I want to rename this. So this is just going to be enemy. And again, we're going to change it into a different colored box. We're going to make this into a purple one. And we're going to let it sit off screen here because we don't want this to be on screen when we start the game. We want this to actually generate itself over time. So let's talk about how we can use our code to make it so that every second an enemy will come out of this spawn point. So we go over to our event editor. And so far we have just these 3 lines of code. We're going to do a new line of code. We're going to do a new event. We're going to click on new condition. And we're going to pick something that is going to happen on a timer. So we haven't used the timer yet. So we're going to click on the stopwatch. And we're going to pick the every option. And it'll give us the option. Do we want to do something every hour, every minute, every second? We're going to leave this set as to 1 second. And we're going to hit OK. So now it's telling us every 1 second we want something to happen. Well, what we want to have happen is we want one of these guys, the enemy, to be created at the enemy spawn point. Now, confusingly, you don't do that by going into the column for the enemy. Instead, there's this column that we've never used before. This is the create new object column. This column allows you to create objects based on any of the sprites you already have there in the game. So I'm going to go down to the every 1 second row, go to the column for create a new object. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to hit create object. Now it'll ask you, well, which object do you want to create? And here we go. I have the one that labeled enemy. I'm going to click on that and hit OK. And it's going to ask me, well, where do you want it to be created? Now I can pick an X or Y coordinate. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to hit the relative to button and I'm going to make it relative to my enemy spawn point and hit OK. Hit OK. So now every 1 second, I should make a new object. That new object is going to be the enemy sprite created at the orange box. So let's run this and see if that's what happens. Now you can see that that is what's happening. It is creating the enemies, and it is creating one every second. The problem is they're all being spawned and staying there. They are not moving. They are not coming after me. See, in Gauntlet, the enemies are spawned, and then they come running after me. So we need to come out of our preview here. We close that out, and we need to add another condition here. We need to make it so that our enemy is going to come at us, and it's going to move toward us no matter where we go. So I'm going to go back into my new condition here, and I'm going to click on the always. That's the special, and click always. So always, I want this guy, my enemy. Now you're going to notice I go to movement, and it doesn't give me any movement, right? Because I don't have any movement set for my enemy sprite. So what I need to do is I need to go into my frame editor. We need to go to our enemy sprite, and we need to go down to the properties and go to movement. See, you're going to see it's set to static. We're going to change that to 8 directions. Now we have to be careful. The way 8 direction normally works is we make it move by pressing the arrow keys. We don't want that to happen. We don't want it to move with the arrow keys. We want it to be moving on its own. What I'm going to do is where it says directions, I'm going to go ahead and actually zero out all the directions on both initial direction and directions. This means that even if I'm hitting the arrow keys, it won't move when I hit the arrow keys in the direction of the arrow keys. Instead, what I have to do, see now if I do this, it still won't move. It has no directions to move in. What I can do now though, is I can go into my event editor, go back to that always line that I put, go to the enemy sprite column, and when I go to movement, I now have all of my movement options. What we're gonna use here is the set speed. When you click on it, we have this, our number pad and stuff. I'm gonna set it to 25. It sets it to a speed of 25, so it's always gonna move at a speed of 25. And I also want it to follow me. The way you're gonna have it follow you is we're gonna go back into that column, also on the always line. We're gonna right click and we're gonna add a direction. So we want it to look in the direction of, meaning it's gonna move and it's constantly gonna look in a specific direction. So we're gonna click look in direction of, and again, we could just put an X and Y coordinate, but we don't want that. We want it to follow my player character. So again, we're gonna use our old friend here, relative to, select our player character, and hit OK. Hit OK again. And now our code reads always for the entire game. Our enemy is going to set its speed to 25, and it's going to constantly look at the center of the player character. So let's run this and see if that's what happens. And bingo, we have enemies that are following us. This is pretty good. Now you might notice it is going everywhere I'm going, it's following me around. And right now we don't have any collisions added in, we don't have any enemy deaths or stuff like that. Even if I shoot, right, it's not gonna kill them. We can, do that in another video. The main thing I'm gonna point out here is that they are moving through the walls. They are not being stopped by the walls. So there's one last thing we need to do for our enemies here, is we need to go ahead, come back to our always condition here, right? And actually we're gonna put a new condition. Just like we have the player collides with the background, we're gonna make that same condition, instead of the player, we're gonna make the enemy. When the enemy collides with the backdrop, and I can just use what I have here. We're gonna take that stop that we have here from our other line, and we're gonna just bring it over here. So now when the enemy collides with the background, the enemy should stop. So let's now run this and see how this works. So let's see, and look at that. They still follow me, and they will continue to follow me, even on the other side of the wall. So this moves very much like the Gauntlet enemies move in the game. They move in these very big mobs that will follow you and your direction and get stopped by the walls. So that's our enemy movement. That's how we create enemy spawn points and have them move and act the way they do in Gauntlet. The next video we'll be talking about how to make collisions with the enemies, make it so that we have health for the player character, and maybe we'll even get into how we can make our player start to destroy the enemies with his projectile. I want to thank you guys for watching through this video, and I look forward to being in the next video with you.